In this podcast episode, Dr. Jason Fung explores the complexities behind hunger, weight gain, and obesity. Moving beyond the simplistic calories in versus calories out paradigm, he delves into the hormonal, emotional, and environmental drivers of eating behavior. Dr. Fung discusses the biological mechanisms that regulate body fat, the impact of ultraprocessed foods on hunger hormones and metabolism, and the importance of addressing root causes rather than just symptoms. He also shares practical insights into fasting, social influences, mindfulness, and the role of modern medications like GLP-1 receptor agonists in managing weight. Dr. Fung begins by emphasizing the fundamental difference between asking, "Why are we gaining weight?" and "Why are we hungry?" He critiques the conventional notion that simply eating fewer calories is the solution to obesity. This approach, he argues, fails because it overlooks the root causes of hunger, leaving people in a constant battle between willpower and biological signals. He compares this to telling an alcoholic to drink less, without addressing the underlying causes, such as addiction or emotional distress. The key takeaway is that hunger drives calorie intake. Thus, controlling hunger is essential for sustainable weight management. Exploring the multifaceted nature of hunger, Dr. Fung breaks it down into three categories: homeostatic, hedonic, and conditioned hunger. Homeostatic hunger is the physical need for energy signaled by physiological cues like a growling stomach. Hedonic hunger involves eating for pleasure, often triggered by comfort foods or desserts that activate dopamine pathways, irrespective of energy needs. Conditioned hunger stems from learned behaviors rooted in environmental and social cues, akin to Pavlov's experiments with dogs. In modern society, constant exposure to food-related stimuli conditions people to feel hungry even when they aren't physically in need of food. This food noise complicates efforts to regulate eating behavior. Dr. Fung highlights that the energy balance equation, body fat equals calories in minus calories out, is a shallow explanation for obesity. Asking why calories in exceed calories out reveals more about hunger and hormonal regulation rather than simple voluntary overconsumption. He points out that the number of calories consumed means little without understanding how the body processes and partitions those calories. For example, 200 calories from a high-protein, low-carb meal like eggs triggers satiety hormones and modest insulin response, promoting energy burning rather than fat storage. Conversely, 200 calories from a sugary frappuccino induce rapid insulin spikes, encouraging fat accumulation and quick return of hunger. Central to Dr. Fung's explanation is the concept of a biological fat thermostat governed by homeostatic mechanisms and hormones. This is analogous to a room temperature thermostat that maintains equilibrium. The body regulates fat stores through hormones that influence hunger and metabolism to keep fat levels within a survivable range. When weight is lost, the thermostat often resets higher, increasing hunger and reducing metabolic rate to defend against further fat loss. Hormones like insulin and cortisol push the thermostat upward, promoting weight gain, while others like GLP-1, activated by some medications, push it down, promoting weight loss. The failure to address these hormonal regulators is why many dieting efforts fail long-term. Ultra-processed foods are particularly problematic because they disrupt hormonal signaling and the fat thermostat on multiple fronts. The processing alters the food matrix, speeding digestion and absorption, leading to rapid spikes in blood glucose and insulin. Examples include apples versus applesauce, or steel-cut oatmeal versus instant oatmeal. The more processed versions spike insulin higher due to faster digestion. Moreover, ultra-processed foods are engineered to maximize pleasure through additives like sugar, salt, flavor enhancers, and artificial ingredients, which drive hedonic hunger by flooding dopamine pathways. They also minimize satiety signals, encouraging overeating. Additionally, these foods are heavily advertised and readily available, reinforcing conditioned hunger and food noise everywhere in modern environments. Dr. Fung elaborates on how social contexts and environmental cues strongly influence eating behavior. In traditional societies where certain food rules are respected, such as eating with family at a table and avoiding distracted or constant snacking, obesity rates remain low even though people may eat foods considered indulgent, like pizza and pasta in Italy. Conversely, intense food marketing, ubiquitous availability of ultra-processed snacks, and permissive social norms in places like America amplify conditioned hunger and lead to higher obesity rates. Social modeling also affects habits. People are more likely to eat in ways consistent with their community. Cultures that discourage snacking and promote mindful meals inadvertently provide natural guardrails against overeating. Challenging a common dietary belief, Dr. Fung criticizes frequent snacking as a relatively new, institutionalized habit lacking scientific backing. While many consider snacks, often fruit or low-fat processed options, healthy, he points out that snacking interrupts natural fasting periods and can perpetuate hunger cycles driven by insulin spikes, particularly when snacks are high in refined carbohydrates. This constant eating trains the body to expect food throughout the day, increasing overall caloric intake and making weight management more difficult. Returning to traditional patterns of 3 meals per day with natural fasting intervals, he argues, is a powerful behavioral strategy to reduce hunger and insulin stimulation. The conversation turns to protein, a nutrient often touted for its role in satiety and muscle maintenance. Dr. Fung acknowledges that protein stimulates satiety hormones like GLP-1 and can displace carbohydrate intake, aiding in appetite control. However, he cautions against excessive protein consumption, noting that surplus protein is converted into glucose by the body since it does not store amino acids as energy. This gluconeogenesis could potentially contribute to elevated insulin levels if protein intake is too high. He also distinguishes needs across populations, such as bodybuilders and older adults who may require increased protein to maintain muscle mass. Resistance training is emphasized as critical for muscle preservation, with protein playing a supportive but not sole role. Dr. Fung discusses the growing prominence of GLP-1 receptor agonists such as semaglutide, brand names including Ompic, which effectively reduce hunger by pharmacologically enhancing satiety signals. These drugs have contributed to the first observed decline in obesity rates in recent years by curbing appetite without explicit calorie restriction. However, he expresses caution about their limitations. GLP-1 drugs do not address underlying drivers of hunger and often cause side effects like nausea and loss of food enjoyment, leading many patients to discontinue use within a year. The return of weight after stopping medication is common because the hormonal and behavioral causes of excess hunger remain untreated. Dr. Fung advocates for using these medications as supportive tools alongside lifestyle changes rather than standalone solutions. Dr. Fung outlines foundational behavioral strategies, referring to them as golden rules that have remained effective across generations. The first is to avoid ultra-processed foods that manipulate hormonal responses and foster addictive eating behaviors. Next is incorporating natural fasting periods, whether through time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting, to lower insulin levels and break cycles of conditioned and hedonic hunger. Finally, he stresses the vital role of social design, surrounding oneself with supportive people and contexts that foster mindful eating, communal meals, and routine rather than mindless snacking and eating on the go. These age-old principles align with ancestral wisdom and have endured due to their effectiveness. Building on social aspects, Dr. Fung emphasizes mindfulness in eating habits as a critical tool, especially in Western societies where distracted, rapid, or work-related eating is common. Eating while focused on screens or other activities reduces awareness of fullness cues, leading to overeating. Traditional cultures that eat at the table with others tend to have more regulated intake without the need for conscious restriction. In our environment, deliberate mindfulness helps counteract constant food noise and conditioned hunger, enabling better recognition of true hunger versus emotional or social eating triggers. The episode touches on food addiction, especially in the context of ultra-processed foods engineered to overstimulate reward pathways. Dr. Fung draws parallels between food addiction and substance addiction, arguing that simplistic advice like eat less is ineffective and can lead to unfair blaming of individuals. Instead, addiction models that include compassion, support systems, behavioral therapy, and structured abstinence from triggering foods are necessary. He criticizes societal double standards where alcohol addiction is treated with support and understanding, while food-related struggles are stigmatized and oversimplified. For listeners interested in medical markers, Dr. Fung discusses the importance of tracking insulin and related parameters as early warning signs of metabolic dysfunction. He notes that insulin levels rise long before blood sugar, measured by HbA1c, elevates during progression toward diabetes and obesity. Measuring insulin-like C-peptide levels can provide insight, but is often not widely available or covered by insurance. Apart from blood tests, waist circumference and waist-to-height ratio are practical tools for assessing visceral fat and metabolic risk. He points out that metrics like HDL cholesterol, triglycerides, and blood pressure are also key components of metabolic syndrome that better predict cardiovascular risk than LDL cholesterol, which is often overemphasized. Dr. Fung concludes by highlighting the contrast between traditional societies with ingrained eating practices and the modern Western environment dominated by food noise, screen time, and altered social structures. The rapid societal changes, including disrupted eating patterns, increased stress, poor sleep, and ubiquitous ultra-processed foods, mean that contemporary individuals must work harder to implement mindfulness, social support, and physiological understanding to maintain metabolic health. Adapting these age-old principles with modern knowledge and tools can help combat obesity and related diseases more effectively than diet dogma focused solely on calorie counting. Throughout the episode, Dr. Fung references his book, The Hunger Code, which synthesizes the latest scientific research on hunger, obesity, and processed foods. The book offers over 50 evidence-based strategies for understanding and managing different types of hunger to promote sustainable weight control. A companion multi-day masterclass is available for those who pre-order, focusing on practical implementation and community support. The overarching goal of the book and resources is to move beyond outdated calorie-centric paradigms toward a more nuanced, compassionate, and effective understanding of eating behavior and body weight regulation.